With with that said, no further, bring him in. See Wood, what's going on, man?
Be easy. What's up, man? Good
Man,
to see bro.
You got it. This is an extreme honor to have you on the show. Even though you're my brother, I know your time is precious, but thanks for hitting me up and coming back to me, brother.
Yeah, no problem. No problem.
You talk about Charles Woodson. You're talking about a guy in Sporting News 97 Player of the Year. You're talking about Big Ten Player of the Year. You're talking about Big Ten Defensive Player of the Year. You're talking 97 Heisman, Walter Camp. You're talking, the list goes on. But let's not talk about that. Let's just focus on Ohio State. This is O State weekend. This is the game. Well, in fact, today marks the 25th anniversary of somebody going wild in Ann Arbor 97. Talk about that team and just talk about the rivalry as a whole.
Well, first off, man, 25 years. Goodness gracious.
My bad.
Tell me about
it. Dude, where does the time go, man? You know, it's hard to believe that it's been, you know, that long. You know, we were able to earlier this year have the reunion at the Penn State game with that 97 national championship team. Great to see all of the guys come back and be able to enjoy that moment and just reflect on what a crazy and great year that was. You know, that ended in the national championship. And you already know that on our schedule, you know, the most important game is that last game of the season, and that's playing against the Buckeyes. And we knew going into that game, you know, coming in undefeated, the way that they had came into the game undefeated my first 2 years playing this team, that they were going to try to return the favor. So it was high stakes with that game, but we had a great team, man. Our focus all season long was at an all-time high, and we felt really good about our team, the way we were playing going into the game, and you know, we ultimately did what we had to do.
Yeah.
You know, there was you know, you saw the punt return up the sideline. You know,
yes,
never get tired of seeing that. You know, so reminiscent of
what happened to the pose, Wood?
Dude, I was trying to get to it, but the team, man, they got to me, you know.
Yeah.
They got to me a little quicker than I expected, and they jumped on me, so I didn't get a chance to do the pose. So I missed out on that, but I got the rose in the mouth, Braylon.
There you go.
That's my claim to fame, the rose in the mouth. But, yeah, that game, man, just the rivalry, man, you know about it. You've been in it. There's nothing like it.
Yeah, 100% talking to the greatest college football player of all time. And the reason why I say that isn't because, you know, we're the same school. I've never seen anybody affect the game in all three phases the way he did. You're talking about having passes that lead to the only touchdown for Michigan in that game. You're talking about a punt return for a touchdown. You're talking about on defense, interceptions. You're talking about 4 tackles, 2 interceptions as a freshman. You commanded the whole game in all phases, which ultimately got you in December to the Heisman. Talk about when you dropped down to a Nisi Wood. What was that moment like for you winning the Heisman Trophy, and what was the emotion in that moment?
It was historical. You know what I mean? It really was. You know, there had been guys who have been up for the Heisman Trophy from the defensive side of the ball, but no one was able to take it home. You know, so for me to be up there in New York thinking that, you know what, this is a foregone conclusion. We knew who, you know, they had hyped up to win the trophy the entire preseason, during the season. You know, it was almost as if, you know, that was, you know, his gift, his rite of passage, you know, to win that award. So I went up there just trying to be a part of the festivities and be a part of, you know, being a runner-up like most defensive players were.
Yeah.
So to have my name called by Rudy Risker, man, saying from Michigan, you know, Charles Woodson, like, you know, my whole body, I kind of went limp, man. I didn't know what to do.
Yeah.
If you watch it back, you can see Randy nudged me with his elbow.
Yeah.
Like, man, get up.
they called you. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm like, damn, you know, they said from Michigan, like, holy, you know what I mean? So, you know, you get up and I take that knee at the trophy, like, I'm just down there shaking my head. I can't believe this just happened, man. So what an unbelievable, you know, moment for myself, for my team, because, you know, no doubt that this is much more than just an individual player. You know, you can't get to an undefeated season, beat Ohio State, and go to a national championship game without every player and every coach around you. So what a great moment for myself, Michigan, and my entire family.
And your mom and dad saw them as well. You know, that was one of the first things you said. You gave honor to the guy. I watched it a million times. You gave honor to the guy first, and obviously you brought your mom in there, which is great. Ryan, Ermanni?
Seawood, thanks so much for the time. I was a freshman in 97, and won the national championship. And I was thinking to myself, oh, this is easy. We'll do this every year. Hasn't been the case since. Does this current team have what it takes to win a national championship?
You know what? I think they do. I try not to be biased and try to be objective in my opinion, but I think when you watch this team, the one thing, of course, that they do really well, they're able to run the ball. Offensive line plays really well, creating holes in space for those running backs. I think that defensively, we have, we didn't know what was going to happen with the D-line after Njabo and Hutchinson left last year, but this D-line has continued to step up game in and game out, especially late in games and closing games out and getting pressure, getting sacks and hurries on the quarterback. I think, though, what's going to be most important for this team, though, is we know about the run game and the defense and how well they played. But, this is going to be a huge game for JJ. I think in terms of, getting to the championship, beating Ohio State, getting to the playoffs and being in that championship game, we got to get the optimum play out of JJ. Last week's game was not going to cut it. Missed too many open receivers. Not seeing the tight end in the end zone open late in the game. All of the plays that are there for him to make, this week he's got to make them. And if we get to the playoffs, we're going to have to make them. So if those things happen, we definitely can be a championship team.
Hey, Charles, when you played, the win in '97 was, the 8th win in 10 years for Michigan. Michigan only lost one time in a decade. Obviously, the rivalry has turned on its head now. Michigan's won 3 times since 2001. How important is it to the alumni, to the former players, to you guys, that Michigan wins it? You were a third-year player for the Oakland Raiders the last time Michigan won in Columbus, and you've had a Hall of Fame career since. That's a long time to go down there without a win.
Yeah, it's a long time, man, and really, unacceptable, because, again, it's called the game for a reason. We have, other games on the schedule. We understand that. We respect that. But no matter what happens at any point in the season, we always knew we had that last game of the season. And that's the one we had to make count if all things didn't go well previously. So, to have the record be as lopsided as it's been the last few years, that's, for the guys, you mentioned it, us alumni, the guys who put on that maize and blue, we look for this game. This is the game that you're judged by, no matter what happens in your tenure at Michigan. Everybody wants to know, hey, how many times did you beat Ohio State? You know what I mean? So
yeah, sure.
I know that these guys, I know that they are working their butts off to go in and try to make this one 2 years in a row. And let's get ourselves on a little roll, man, and kind of get back to those winning ways against Ohio State.
Hey, Charles, as part of Big Noon Kickoff, Urban's had to come to Ann Arbor a couple of times. Now you go to Columbus. How are you treated there?
Man, I'm going to be treated like a Hall of Famer. That's how I'm going to be treated. Hey.
There we go. Fremont's finest, baby.
Exactly. I don't care what they yelling. I don't care what colors they got on. I'm walking in as a Hall of Famer, baby. So give me my respect.
Wood, that's interesting. Let's stay with that for 2 seconds. Look at this, man. Michigan has 3 Heisman Trophy winners, 2 of them for the state of Ohio. What about Michigan made you go Michigan and not Ohio State? Because you're from Fremont, and it just doesn't seem like Ohio State's letting guys slip to Michigan.
No, it's interesting, man. It's really a very simple story for me. I grew up liking Michigan because of my older brother. I've told this story a million times. He was a huge Michigan fan, wanted to go to Michigan. He wasn't able to, but I grew up, my older brother was my first, childhood idol. He was who I watched every day. We lived in the same house. I watched him go to practice and went to his games, and man, he was my guy. And so he liked Michigan. I like Michigan, and so
I love it.
There's, when you live in Ohio, you live in Michigan. To me, you can't like both of them.
Nope.
It's just
you can't.
That's just the way it is. So when it came time for recruiting, I was recruited by Ohio State, but I was like, you know what, I like Michigan. I'm a Wolverine, so
yeah,
I can't go there. You know what I mean? So I took some other visits, but Michigan was always at the top of the list.
Man, that's love right there. We got to transition to it. We talked about how great you were in college, my favorite of all time. But you also played in the NFL, where you also had a Hall of Fame career. 62 interceptions, 13 defensive touchdowns, 20 sacks. The list goes on. Defensive player, you're a Super Bowl winner. You won a Super Bowl with the Green Bay Packers. What is your assessment of Aaron Rodgers, the Green Bay Packers, and what they've assembled in terms of this mess in the last 2 years, and also losing Devontae Adams?
Well, first of all, 65 interceptions.
Oh, excuse me.
You know what I mean?
My bad.
You know,
my bad.
Make sure you got my stats right. You know
You're right. You're right. Notice I wasn't reading though. Just saying. Notice I wasn't reading.
Yeah. Well, at least you got the 60 though. At least you
my apologies, big bro.
60 plus.
Oh, by the way, here you go. Since I'm doing these things,
hey, that's how you save yourself. You just say 60 plus. That's how you
100%. My apologies.
Yeah. But Green Bay, man. It's really interesting. Couple of years. I think this. You kind of got to go back to the year they drafted. Jordan Love. I think the consensus is when you talk about the Packers is that, hey, let's surround Aaron, with whatever you need, and then all of a sudden they bring in Jordan Love, and it's all signs are pointing to, all right, we're looking for life beyond Aaron Rodgers and not trying to take advantage of what we have left with him, for the rest of his career. So I think that left a sour taste in his mouth. Then of course he went on to play well, and then after that, still within the draft, still not going out and getting a top receiver. And I just think, man, from that point on, man, there's been a sour taste in his mouth. I think there's been dissension between him, the staff and everyone there in the Green Bay Packer organization. And this year is just kind of hit ahead, man. Like they can't get on the same page. You hear Aaron coming out talking about, the guys can't get the plays right. I got to throw on timing, and if I can't throw on timing, then it's not going to work. And so you got these young guys out there trying to play their butts off, but if the guy is throwing the ball to you don't trust you, you're not going to get it. And there's not a lot of trust there. And what I thought about the defense, I thought they would be the anchor for this team this year, and they haven't performed up to the level that I thought they would perform.
Good point.
Now they're dealing with injuries with Rashad Gary and Kavondre Bell's been out. So, it's one of those things, man. It's kind of like a perfect storm, that hits a team sometimes where all of a sudden now, it starts rolling and you can't stop it. And they've dug themselves a hole this year that I don't think they're going to be able to climb out of.
Gotcha.
Hey, Charles, I want to ask you about Tom Brady. Are you surprised he's still playing? And B, you guys taped that Tuck Rule special on ESPN. That was great, by the way. Do you ever sit back and wonder how the tracks would have maybe changed for Brady, maybe even yourself, if you guys would have probably won the Super Bowl that year, if that call
and the following, if you didn't get hurt.
Following, you're right.
Get hurt, yeah.
If that call went a different way.
Honestly, I feel like in terms of my career, I don't think anything would have changed. I think, barring I don't get, any injuries that ends my career, I'm going to still end up here where I'm at. I think who it would have changed for is Tom. Who knows what they do at the end of that season. If we win that game, they don't go on to win the Super Bowl. Do the Patriots go back to Drew Bledsoe? Is Tom in a backup role again? Does he end up getting, traded to another team? So I think his path changes. Mine ends up, probably where it's at right now. I think in terms of Brady still playing, he's always said he wanted to play as long as he could, and he plays the quarterback position. I mean, if you play quarterback in the NFL now,
yeah.
I mean, guys can't even breathe on you. You're protected.
Which is true.
Yeah. So if you don't have any, he hasn't had any. He's had a knee injury. I think that was way back in 2007 or something like that. Yeah, something like that. But he hasn't had any injuries to his shoulder. You know what I'm saying? He hasn't had dislocations and that sort of thing. So he's going to be able to throw the ball. He's never had to worry about being a mobile quarterback and getting outside of the pocket. He's always operated inside of the pocket. So I'm not surprised that he's still playing. and then also knowing that he wanted to play as long as he could. So, not surprised at all.
All right, see, before we get you out of here, man, my favorite college player of all time is yourself. My favorite NFL player of all time is Randy Moss. Interesting. Oh, for sure. You know what it is. Interesting, you guys sitting right next to each other. That's my 1 and 2. Who's your favorite college player of all time? And then who's your favorite NFL player of all time? And then we're done. I promise.
Man. First, I'll go NFL player. My favorite NFL player growing up was Walter Payton. It was all about sweetness for me. You know, the kangaroos, the headband. He had the curl
Swag.
going. You know, and the high stepping. He had all that. So I always tell people that when I was growing up in the neighborhood, whenever you're choosing the guy who you are, I was Walter Payton. I was sweetness. So that was my guy. I think college-wise, man. That's a tough one, man. So many good ones. But, I always remember, one of the reasons I ended up wearing number 2, there was a guy from Alabama named David Palmer. I don't know if you guys remember David Palmer, man.
Punt return.
David Palmer could do it all. Punt return, wide receiver. He played quarterback sometimes. And, man, just smooth as silk, on the football field. So, David Palmer, man, was one of my favorite college players growing up.
Hey, man, we extremely you a lot.
Can I ask? Go ahead. Can I ask last one? And I think I know what you're going to say. The more important number at Michigan, 1 or 2?
It's what a jerk!
Sorry, Brad.
What a jerk!
Sorry, Brad.
What a jerk! I abstain.
Hey,
I abstain.
All I would say is you can't have 1 without 2. So you can't have 2 without 1. So
There
you go.
They go hand in hand.
Amen. Amen.
You see what time it is? 9-7 in the building. Shout out to my man.
Thanks,
Big
Charles.
brother Charles. Was really appreciate you, brother.
Appreciate you. We know you got Michigan this week too.
Come on, man. Hey, I told you, I'm not objective when it comes to this game, man. I'm gonna let the bias hang out, man.
That's it. That's what
you go.
And that's what we want too.
You know what he said on Monday Night Football. You know the school. You know the
Thanks,
school.
Charles.
You
we
know the
appreciate
school.
you doing
Appreciate
this.
you, brother. Appreciate you. Thanks so much.